where do actors actually find auditions? Welcome to my episode of the Drama Coach podcast, all about casting platforms and where to find auditions. My name's Lisa Southam. I'm an actor, drama coach, mum of young performers, and host of this podcast, where we talk about acting, auditions, training, confidence, the industry, and how to support young performers without losing the joy. And today, I want to talk about something that comes up all the time: casting platforms, Spotlight, Mandy, Backstage, StarNow, casting Callback, Actors Access in America, and increasingly, or soon to be, SceneTribe, which is not quite the same as the others. And I'll come back to that properly later because I think it's a really interesting one to watch. Now, if you're a parent of a young performer or a teen or young adult actor starting to take things more seriously, this whole world can feel really confusing. You might hear one person say, yes, absolutely, you need Spotlight. Somebody else might say, I got my first job on StarNow. Someone might say Mandy is useful for building credits. Someone else might say Backstage is better for America. Someone might say, I only go through my agent. Somebody else might say, don't pay for anything. And then you sit there thinking, right, well, what do we actually do? Do we need all of them? Are we missing opportunities if we're not on them? Is it worth paying? Are they safe? Are they professional? Are they for beginners or working actors? And then, of course, you can be on books for supporting artist jobs as well. Check out my whole episode on that if you need to know more about that. But perhaps most importantly, how do we use these casting platforms without getting sucked into the constant feeling of checking, refreshing, submitting, and wondering why nothing is happening? So that's what today's episode is about. Not just a list of casting sites, but how to think about them, what they're for and what they're not for, and how to use them sensibly, especially when young performers are involved. A gentle starting point. The first thing I want to say is this: a casting platform is a tool. It's not a career, it's not a guarantee, it's not a measure of your talent. And it's definitely not something that should take over your life. I think this is really important because it's easy to think if I just get on the right platform, everything will change. And yes, being visible in the right places can absolutely help. But acting careers are built from lots of things working together: training, experience, good headshots, a strong profile, knowing your casting, being able to self-tape well, having professional communication, being reliable, building relationships, being able to cope with no's, and yes, sometimes being on the right casting platform at the right time. But the platform itself is not magic. It's a doorway, and not every doorway is right for every performer at every stage. So what is a casting platform? Let's start with the basics. A casting platform is essentially a place where actors, performers, or creatives can be listed, found, submitted, or apply for roles. Some are very industry-facing, some are more open access. Some are mainly for professional actors, some are used by agents and casting directors. Some are better for student films, commercials, corporate work, low-budget projects, or independent productions. Some are brilliant in one country and less useful in another. Some are mainly for performers. Some also include models, crew, content creators, voice artists, and other creatives. And that distinction matters because when someone says you need to be on this platform, the question is, for what? For professional TV castings, for theatre, for commercials, for student films, for getting experience, for American auditions, for voiceover, for background work, for networking, for building a profile. Those are all slightly different things. And that is why one platform can be brilliant for one person and not worth it for another. Spotlight. Let's start with Spotlight, because in the UK, Spotlight is still the big one people talk about. Spotlight has been around for a very long time, and it's still widely seen as the main professional casting platform for actors in the UK and Ireland. If you're represented by an agent in the UK, there's a strong chance they will want you or need you on Spotlight. For professional film, TV, theatre and commercial castings, Spotlight is often where agents submit their clients. Now, does that mean every young performer needs Spotlight immediately? No, but they will need Spotlight when they have their agent. but they need an agent to get spotlight, so it does get a little bit tricky. But no, they don't need it right away. This is where parents can start to panic because they hear spotlight and think, we need to get our child on there now or they'll miss out. But not every child is ready. Spotlight has eligibility requirements, and that's a good thing. It means it's not just a free-for-all directory. So as a child, it would be your agent gets you onto Spotlight, having that agent connection. But for an adult to get onto Spotlight, you need to have certain training or professional credits. You'll also be expected to have good headshots and a reel. So if you're still very new, perhaps just starting your drama classes or doing your first shows or building your confidence, you don't need to rush into Spotlight. Spotlight's not a badge of worth, it's a professional tool. Although I definitely felt excited to share the fact that I'd got onto Spotlight. So I remember it feeling like something worth sharing, and I was excited and proud to be there. But it is a professional tool, and they are most useful when the performer's ready to use them properly. For young performers, you would think about Spotlight when you have your agent. And then after that, you will want things like good quality headshots, some training or credits. Are they emotionally ready for auditions and rejection? Also, your agent will understand how the submissions work. You'll also need to think about what the child is pursuing. Is it stage, screen, or commercial work? Which of those are they pursuing more seriously, or do they want a mixture of everything? If all those things aren't there yet, it doesn't mean that the child's behind, it just means they're still building. Let's talk about Actors Access in America. Now, I don't have any personal experience of using Actors Access, where I have plenty of experience using Spotlight because I'm based in the UK. So from my research, let's talk a little bit about Actors Access. If you're listening from America, because I know some people are, or if you're curious about the US industry, then Actors Access is a big one for you. And I think you've heard guests on the podcast talk about it before because I've had guests from America. So this is a part of Breakdown Services. And in North America, it is a major platform connected to professional casting breakdowns. A lot of American actors use Actors Access for film, TV, commercials, and theatre submissions. If you're UK-based, it might not be the first platform you need. I'd argue it probably isn't, unless you're actively targeting the US market and have the right materials, understand the self-tape expectations, and ideally have some guidance from someone who knows that market. That's before we even get into licenses and visas and rules, etc. So you would really need to look into that if you're in the UK and pursuing the American market. I know that American casting can feel really exciting, of course, but I would be careful with young performers and parents getting carried away with the idea of submitting internationally before everything's properly in place. And again, if you've got your agent, they can guide you through that. Because there are practical questions: work permits, time zones, accent work, representation, legal requirements, parental support, travel, safeguarding. For adults, it might be a useful platform if you're building US-facing material or working with an American coach or manager. For young performers, I would only explore it with a clear reason and proper adult guidance. Again, platform second, strategy first. Now, Mandy. Mandy has been around in various forms for a long time. Some people will remember Casting Call Pro, which became part of what people now know as Mandy. Mandy is a jobs and casting platform for actors, crew, and creative professionals. In my experience, and from what many actors talk about, Mandy can be a mixed bag. Although I have heard more positive things more recently. There can be useful jobs on there. There can be student films, low-budget films, theatre work, corporate videos, voiceover jobs, presenting work, commercials, and sometimes interesting smaller projects. But you do need to be discerning. Some opportunities may be paid properly, some may be low paid, some may be unpaid, some may be great experience, and some may not be worth your time. And this is where I think parents and young performers need to slow down, because an opportunity is not automatically a good opportunity. Ask. Is it safe? Is it age appropriate? Who is producing it? Is there a script? Is there a clear location? Is there pay? Are expenses covered? Is there a chaperone requirement? Is the usage clear if it's filmed? What will they do with the footage? Is it something my child actually wants to do? Would this genuinely help them grow? Mandy can be useful, especially for actors trying to build credits or explore different kinds of work. But use your judgment, and if it's for a child, use even more judgment. Backstage. Backstage is another well-known platform, especially in the US, though it also lists opportunities in the UK and internationally. It covers casting calls, auditions, and jobs across acting, modelling, voiceover, theatre, film, video, branded content, and more. Again, it can be useful, but it is broad, and broad means you need to filter carefully. For young performers and parents, Backstage might be useful if you're looking for open casting calls, independent work, student films, voiceover opportunities, or international listings. But the same rules apply. Check the production, check the pay, check the usage, check who is involved, check whether the role is suitable. And please, especially with young performers, do not just apply because something says Netflix style or major opportunity, great exposure, or breakthrough role. Those phrases can sound exciting, but they do not automatically mean professional. Good opportunities tend to have clear information. Who is casting? Who is producing? What is the project? What are the dates? What is the pay? What are the expectations? If something feels vague, rushed, pushy, or too good to be true, step back. StarNow. StarNow is another platform that many actors, models, performers, and creatives have used, particularly for open casting calls and more accessible opportunities. It can include acting jobs, modelling jobs, content creator work, music videos, commercials, student films, and more. And I do believe I'm right in thinking many of these platforms are now owned and run by the same companies, but you still have to pay separately. Sometimes the same jobs are posted on each, sometimes different jobs are posted on each, so it can be a bit of a minefield choosing which one to select. Hence this podcast, which hopefully might help you a little. For beginners, StarNow can sometimes feel less intimidating than some of the others. It may be a place where people start to understand what castings look like, what information is asked for, what kinds of roles are out there, and how to submit. And actually, each of these platforms you submit slightly differently. But again, it depends what you're looking for. If your young performer is at the very beginning, I would not throw them at every open casting call. I would use a platform like this as an education tool as much as an opportunity tool. Look together, read breakdowns together, talk about what makes something suitable or unsuitable. Ask, does this match their age and casting? Is it local enough? Is it safe? Is it realistic? Would it be a good experience? Is it paid? Does it require anything we are not comfortable with? And are they asking for too much personal information? This can actually be a really useful learning exercise because young performers need to learn how to read a casting call properly. Not just, this looks exciting, but is it right for me? That's a skill that can really matter. Casting Callback. I'm currently on Casting Callback, and I can also get casting callback profiles as part of my paid for profile. I can get free ones for both my daughters, which I thought was quite handy. It's a newer one, according to my research, and has been getting talked about more. It positions itself as a casting service, giving professional actors free access to auditions, which is obviously interesting because cost is a huge issue for performers. But I think you can see them but not apply for them. I think the same applies on Mandy, if I remember correctly. A lot of these platforms, if you've got the free version, that's great. You can have a profile and you can see all of the jobs, but you can't apply for the jobs unless you've got a paid for service. Whereas Spotlight, for example, you have to pay for it. And if you're self-represented, you see adults would be self-represented. Kids wouldn't be self-represented on there. If you're self-represented, you see a certain amount of casting calls. And then depending on your agent and their sort of level of access, I suppose, or who the casting directors are pushing their casting calls out to, you'll get a different view or a different mix, if that makes sense. Not all jobs on Spotlight are shown to all actors, whereas I think your casting callback, your StarNow, your Mandy, etc. The jobs are the jobs and they're put on there, and you can see them whether you're paid for or not, but you can only apply for them, from my experience, if you have the paid for version. Okay, so back to chatting about actors. Okay, so back to talking about, we were on casting callback. And I wanted to make the point that for any casting platform, really, as actors and parents of young performers, we can end up paying for so many things: headshots, classes, travel, self-tape equipment, memberships, workshops, exam fees, show fees. So anything that makes access fairer is worth taking a look at. And Casting Callback says it provides free access to acting auditions and that employers and casting notices are checked against professional and safety standards. So that's a good sign. But again, I would still read everything carefully. Free doesn't automatically mean suitable. Paid doesn't automatically mean better. The important thing is whether the platform is professional, whether the opportunities are properly checked, and whether the performer is right for the work and the work right for the performer. For adult actors, Casting Callback may be a useful additional place to have a profile and look for work. I'm actually considering trying others myself. So I'm thinking I'll try different ones. So when my Casting Callback subscription elapses, I'll perhaps try Mandy, I think, next, and see if any of them are worth supplementing my Spotlight and my agents. And I'll also talk a little about other places other than casting platforms, such as Facebook, such as Instagram. People will put their casting calls on there, but you need to be really careful because anyone can do that. So you need to make sure you check it through thoroughly. So for young performers on any platform, I would always check whether the role is appropriate for their age, how the management around it works, and how communication is handled. So let's talk about SceneTribe, the sponsors of this podcast. I want to frame this carefully because SceneTribe is not simply another casting site. In actual fact, as yet, at time of recording, there's not a casting facility, but I've been privileged to see the app being developed, and I can see that there is a casting match coming very soon. It's currently a creative industries network. The idea is that your profile's not just a kind of flat actor CV. It can include your different disciplines and how you've connected with other professionals in the industry. So this could include acting, voiceover, directing, writing, editing, choreography, music, production, backstage, teaching, photography, whatever genuinely reflects your creative work. And your credits can connect to those productions and those people that you've worked with. So rather than your career just being like a list of credits, it starts to show the working relationships behind those credits. And I think that's where SceneTribe feels different, because the creative industries are built on people. We're always told to network and to remember everybody that we've worked with. You know, who you've worked with. Would you work with them again? What teams already have chemistry? What do you actually do? Not just what you say you do. So SceneTribe is preparing for a casting search, matches, calls and shortlists, and directors and casting directors are beginning to come onto the platform. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, I think it may be becoming a really interesting space to watch for opportunities, discovery, and industry connection. But I don't want to overstate it. At the moment, I would describe SceneTribe as an emerging professional network for creatives, with casting and discovery features developing around real credits, structured profiles, and collaboration. And that's exciting, especially because it's not only thinking about the actors, it's thinking about the whole creative ecosystem. The performers, crew, directors, casting, producers, voice artists, editors, designers, choreographers, writers. It's even got plans as to how to make things easier for agents in the future. And for young performers, particularly now it has under 18 parent managed profiles, I think it opens up a really useful conversation. Not let's put children everywhere online and hope they get found, but how can we help young performers build a safe, supported, accurate record of their creative work? How can we help them see their journey? How can we help them understand that credits are connected to people, productions, and skills? How can we help them build a professional mindset without making them grow up too quickly? That's the bit I actually find really interesting, because a young performer's world is not just auditions, it is training, workshops, shows, youth theatre, short films, voice work, dance, singing, Lambda exams, backstage work, creative projects, and sometimes all of that is scattered across phones, folders, programs, and half-finished CVs. So a profile that helps organise all of that properly can be really useful. But again, it is a tool. It should support the performer, not become another source of pressure. My next point is, do you need to be on all of these casting platforms? No, absolutely not. In fact, I think being on too many platforms can become overwhelming. You end up checking everything, updating everything, uploading everything to different sites, paying for things you're not really using, and feeling like you're always missing out. For most performers, I would think of it in terms of stages. If you're a beginner, focus on the training, confidence, experience, and safe opportunities. You might not need paid platforms yet. A simple CV, good headshots when appropriate, drama classes, theatre work, school productions, and carefully chosen opportunities may be enough. And if you're a young performer beginning to take it seriously, start thinking about your materials, headshots, and these can be created at home to start with before you pay out for them. A clear CV, a simple self-tape setup, a monologue, a show reel, a parent-managed profile where appropriate. Possible spotlight if the child is ready and got that agent connection. Possibly other platforms if you're looking for open opportunities and you can manage them safely. If you're an adult actor, spotlight is still incredibly important in the UK, especially if you're represented, but you can as an adult be on there as unrepresented. Casting Callback may be worth exploring. Mandy, StarNow, and Backstage may be useful depending on what kind of work you're seeking. Actors' access matters more if you're working in or targeting the American market. SceneTribe may be worth building now as a broader creative profile and network, especially if you work in more than one discipline or want your collaborations to be visible. And if you're a parent, please do not feel pressured to sign up for everything. Start with the child, not the platform. What stage are they at? What do they actually want? What are they ready for? What can you safely manage? And what will genuinely help? So what should be on a good profile? Whichever platform you're using, the same basic principles apply. Keep it clear, keep it honest, keep it updated, don't exaggerate, don't use old photos that no longer look like the performer, don't list skills they can't actually do, and don't make a child sound older or more experienced than they are. Casting teams are not looking for fantasy profiles, they're looking for the right person for the role. A good profile usually needs a clear headshot, maybe a range of headshots, accurate age. By a range of headshots, I mean sort of different versions of the type of character you can play. So it's still, again, this is probably more for adults than children, but we do it for children as well. The nod to the type of character you can play, something with hair up. If they wear glasses, something with their glasses, something with a bright, fun top, though not too patternly and distracting, but, maybe a bright colour, something more muted, that kind of idea. Other things you'll need to be listing is an accurate age or playing age, location or base, not specific address. Height, and that's one that needs to be updated regularly because children grow very fast, don't they? Training, credits, skills, accents that can be done brilliantly. Languages, if relevant, show reel or self-tape clips, voice reel, agent details if they're represented, parent or guardian contact for under 18s, and please keep the tone professional. You don't write things like destined to be a star or born for the stage or the next big thing. Just be clear. A calm, accurate, well-organized profile is much stronger than one that feels overdone. Safety for young performers. Now, because this podcast is for parents and young performers, I need to talk about safety. Casting platforms can be helpful, but anywhere that involves opportunity, visibility, and communication needs boundaries. For under 18s, I would always want a parent or guardian to be managing this. I would not want a child handling industry messages alone. I would be very careful about exact location. Don't list school details publicly. Always check who's posting the job. I would be cautious about roles that feel inappropriate, vague, or rushed. I would look for clear safeguarding information. I would ask about chaperones, and personally, I would never let my child go to a job without me or their dad currently as a chaperone, but I know the time may come where they would need professional chaperones. I'm a professional chaperone, and there are times where children need to be looked after by them, but for now, with any job that's not via our agent, any student film or smaller opportunity, I will always escort my child to set and stay with them. I would also check filming dates, location, and supervision. I would never let a child go to an audition, shoot, or meeting without an appropriate adult and knowledge and support. And I would make sure the young person knows they're allowed to say no. That's no to the job, or that's no to things that crop up within the job. That last bit's really important. Sometimes young performers and even the parents can feel lucky to be asked or selected. And because they feel lucky, they can find it harder to say, I don't feel comfortable with this. So we need to model that for them. Not every opportunity is the opportunity or your opportunity. Not every casting call deserves your child's energy or yours. So saying no can be professional and empowering. Just use your judgment and always do your research. The cost question. Let's talk about the cost, because this is where it gets a bit uncomfortable, because some platforms, I'd argue most platforms, are paid. Some are free. Some have the basic options that are free but charge for full access or applying for jobs. Some are worth it for certain actors and not for others. And as parents, it can be very easy to feel like you're failing your child if you don't pay for everything. You're not. Please hear that. You're not failing your child because you are being financially sensible. Before paying for any platform, ask, are there suitable opportunities for my child or for myself? Are we eligible? Will we actually use it? Do we have the materials needed to make it worthwhile? Is there a clear route to being submitted? Is this better than spending the money on training, headshots, a workshop, or coaching? Can we afford it without resentment or pressure? Because sometimes the best investment is not another subscription. Sometimes it's a better headshot, a stronger monologue. That shouldn't cost you much, though, to create a monologue. A self-tape coaching session, a good drama class, a train ticket to a workshop, or simply giving the young person time to grow. How to choose your platforms. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I will try and keep it simple. Ask these 3 questions. 1. Where am I based? A UK actor will usually think about platforms differently from an American actor. Point 2. What stage am I at? Beginner, training, semi-professional, professionally represented, returning actor, parent-managed child performer. Those are not all the same. Point 3. What kind of work am I looking for? TV and film, theatre, commercials, voiceover, student films, professional credits, experience, networking, creative collaboration, some sort of mixture of the ones I've just listed. Once you know that, then the decision becomes a little easier. For a UK professional actor, currently, Spotlight is where you want to be. For a US-focused actor, Actors Access will matter more. For building experience, platforms like Mandy, StarNow, Backstage, or Casting Callback might be useful. For wider creative networking and production-based profiles, SceneTribe is one to look at and watch closely. And of course, you might look into what each of these charge, because some might have a free month's trial, some might be £8 a month, £2 a month, or £30 a month. Look into them and weigh it up. And a lot of them also will. Perhaps they'll be £8 a month, but only if you pay the whole year up front. Whereas if you're paying monthly, it actually works out more. So go and have a look, check them out, read reviews, go and see which would be appropriate for you before you just dive in. And I'm sorry, I can't honestly say to you, you need this one, because it's so dependent on all of the things that I've listed. Different platforms are going to be appropriate for different actors at different times. And of course, they're changing and developing. Like I said, SceneTribe, when this airs in, I don't know, 8 weeks' time probably, things will be different again. So go and check it out, and it always promises to be affordable, which is one of the reasons I love the fact that it's our sponsor, because I do think parents of young performers can be asked to shell out money all over the place, designed as opportunities. And it's hard, isn't it, to weigh it up and decide where you should spend your money. So another point I want to make, casting platforms are not a substitute for training. Just because you're on the platform, you don't want to stagnate and just think, oh, I'm on there now, I'll get the jobs. A casting platform is not a substitute for training. It's not a substitute for the craft or learning how to act on camera or understanding text or listening or confidence or emotional resilience. If a young performer is getting lots of auditions but can't cope with rejection, well, we need to support that. If they're applying for everything but not preparing properly, we need to slow down. If they're on every platform but have no training, we need to rebalance. If they're desperate to be seen but not enjoying the work, then we need to pause. The work comes first, in my opinion. Acting is not just being available, it's being ready. A healthy way to use casting platforms. So how do we use these platforms well? Whichever platform or platforms we've decided to be a part of, and that may fluctuate and change during your career. Perhaps you'll sort of make your way through them. So I would suggest this is how to stay healthy. Set a regular time to check them rather than constantly refreshing. Some of these will come, you can set up to have alerts come through to your emails. You can set up different filters, or you can keep it on your desktop and go in and check in regularly. Sometimes things can come through really quite quickly, urgent. I think on Casting Callback, it always says, I had one and they always say in the top of my email, urgent self-tape request. And actually then I look at the date and I've got a whole week to do it. And that to me doesn't seem urgent. To me, urgent is like 24-hour, maybe 48-hour turnaround. And you don't want to miss that, do you? If it's a good opportunity and you only check in once a week, you would have missed that. So it might be an idea to have it come through to your phone, but I wouldn't be constantly refreshing and checking. If you do miss that opportunity, perhaps it wasn't for you. You don't want this to be a cause of stress and anxiety for you or your child. Keep those profiles updated, but don't obsess about them. Only apply for things that are genuinely suitable. I would imagine casting directors get pretty exasperated with people applying for castings that aren't suitable, wrong age, demeanor. I don't know. You usually get quite a detailed breakdown. And if you know it doesn't suit you, it seems a waste of your time and the casting director's time to be doing that. So always read the full breakdown. Do not rush your submission. Yeah, I can totally be guilty of that. I've even rushed self-tape sometimes, got it all done, and then read the brief again and gone, yeah, actually, I need to do it like this. So do read the breakdowns properly and don't rush your submission, whether that's an email, filling out some boxes, or the full-on audition. Actually, on a side note, I've seen more and more casting calls asking for a self-tape at the point of you submitting and saying, yes, I'd like to audition. I don't personally agree with that. I think if you've got your monologue, your show reel, a casting director should be able to glance over that and say whether they want you to self-tape or not. So if I see an immediate self-tape audition, I hope this is making sense, without them having seen any of, it's not like they've emailed me and said, oh, I've seen your profile and you'd be appropriate, please audition. But the calls that go out saying, this is the audition, this is the self-tape, submit it, often I will get in contact with them and say, hi, just thank you, I'd love to apply for this, but I'm just checking, here's my show reel, am I appropriate for that self-tape? In which case I'll absolutely create you a self-tape. I just think it's a waste of your time and their time personally. But if you choose to do that self-tape because you want the practice and you're happy to dive straight in and do that, that is absolutely fine. Keep a record of what you apply for, because this is making contacts, isn't it, in the industry? Make sure self-tapes are properly prepared. As I said, don't rush. Make sure you read the instructions properly. Don't take silence personally. It's more than likely you won't hear back at all, and that's totally fine. I've had some quite friendly yeses and nos, and also, can we keep you on file for future work? From casting directors, they've said, thanks so much, that's great, but it's not quite right for this, but can we keep you on file for something else? Great, you're networking and you're getting seen. Please remember, though, that not hearing back is totally normal. It's not usually a place where you get feedback or a yes or a no or anything. So if you do get feedback, great, run with it and enjoy it. But please don't worry if you don't. It's very normal. For the parents, keep the emotional temperature low with this. If your child submits for something, try not to make every audition feel like a huge family event. Do the tape, send it, and move on. The more we can normalize that process, I think the healthier it becomes for your child. Because the casting platform is only the start. Let's talk about the emotional side then. I think this is potentially the part that people don't talk about enough. Casting platforms can create a strange emotional loop. You see a role, you get excited, you imagine yourself doing it, you apply, you check your emails, you hear nothing, you feel disappointed, then you see another role, and the whole cycle starts again. For adults, that can be hard enough. For children and teens, it can be really intense. So, we need to help young performers understand that applying is not the same as being close. A casting call is not a promise. A submission is not a rejection waiting to happen. It's just a part of the process. Sometimes you're right for it, sometimes you're not. Sometimes they already know who they want. Sometimes the brief changes. Sometimes they need a different height, accent, look, skill, location, availability, or sibling combination. Sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of the performer. Not just sometimes, I'd say a lot of the time. But that is why we need the bigger picture. Training, classes, projects, creative friendships, live performance, fun, reset, a life outside of acting. Casting platforms can open doors, but they should not become the whole house. Quick platform roundup then. Let's bring this together and hopefully simplify some things. So we have Spotlight, the key professional platform in the UK and Ireland. Important for many represented and working actors, but not something every beginner needs to rush into. And you can also be on there as an adult, self-represented, but not a child. Actors Access, a major US platform connected to breakdown services. Most relevant if you're working in or seriously targeting the North American market. Mandy, a broad jobs platform for actors, crew, and creatives. Can be useful for smaller projects, voiceover, theatre, corporate, film, and experience building. But check each opportunity carefully. Backstage, a large casting platform, especially strong in the US, covering acting, modelling, voiceover, branded content, theatre and screen work. Useful, but broad, so filter well. StarNow, an accessible platform with open casting calls across acting, modelling, music, content creation, and more. Can be useful for beginners and experience building, but needs careful judgment. Casting Callback, a newer casting platform offering free access to acting auditions with a focus on the professional actors and checked casting notices. Worth exploring, particularly for UK actors looking for additional routes. SceneTribe, an emerging creative industries network built around profiles, production-backed credits, and real working relationships. Not just an actor listing, but a wider creative network, with casting search and discovery developing, and directors and casting directors beginning to come on board. It is one to watch and build thoughtfully. Final message. So, if you take one thing from this episode, please let it be this. You do not need to be everywhere. You need to be in the right places for your stage, your goals, and your safety. For young performers especially, the priority should be good training, safe adults, clear communication, healthy expectations, useful experience, and a performer who still loves what they're doing. Casting platforms can be part of that. They can help you find opportunities. They can help you understand the industry. They can help you build visibility. They can help you organize your work. They can help you connect with the right people. But they should never make a young performer feel like their worth is measured by how many roles they apply for, how many auditions they get, or how often they are chosen. The platform is not the performer. The profile is not the person. And the audition is not the whole journey. So use the tools, learn the landscape, be curious, be careful, be professional, but keep the young person at the center always. This episode is supported by SceneTribe, the creative industries network built around the work you've done and the people you've done it with. SceneTribe lets creatives build multidisciplinary profiles, connects credits to productions, and make real collaborations visible. And with under 18 parent-managed profiles now available, it's becoming a really interesting space for young performers and their families to explore safely and thoughtfully. You can find out more at SceneTribe.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Drama Coach podcast. If this episode helped you make sense of casting platforms, please do share it with another parent, young performer, drama student, or actor who might be wondering where to start. You can find me at The Drama Coach on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, where I share acting tips, audition advice, confidence support, and honest conversations about the industry. If you would like more support, you can find me across my courses, coaching, and resources through the link in my bio at The Drama Coach. Thank you so much for being here, and I really hope to see you in the next episode.